Everyone, Zeddy here again today with a brand new video, and with how out of control Demon Hunter has been lately, and I see a lot of people being really pissed off about it and wanting balance patches and all that stuff, and hopefully we have something announced soon. It would be nice. I thought I'd go over this topic because I get asked it every once in a while. I see a lot of comments, and basically, was Demon Hunter a mistake? Should we outright delete the class? Has it been good for the game? Has it been bad for the game? I wanted to go over that in like this video, so I wanted to do more of like a summary, like a pros and cons kind of look at things. So in this video, we're going to take a look at just basically the history of Demon Hunter so far, how it's played out this year. We're almost like a year into Demon Hunter's existence in Hearthstone. Then just kind of go over the pros, the cons, like the benefits, the good stuff that has come from the class, and then conclude, has Demon Hunter been a mistake? Is it good for the game? Is it bad for the game? Should we remove it? So anyways, let's take a look and start off with the history of Demon Hunter. So Demon Hunter was introduced in Ashes of Outland, the first expansion of this year. We had like the Demon Hunter Initiate set, and then cards through the Ashes of Outland expansion. And at its release, it was the most broken thing we had ever seen. It was the best class by a mile in Standard. It was the best class by a good amount in Wild. It was completely broken in Arena. And just, yeah, it completely destroyed and utterly made the game almost unplayable unless you're playing Demon Hunter. So it was so bad, they had a day one nerf where they nerfed like 4 or 5 cards. And from there was more nerfs. There was like 13 or 14 nerfs throughout the next 3 months. But as you can see, I'm going to show a couple of the Vicious Syndicate reports throughout the first expansion. It was just Demon Hunter, Demon Hunter, Demon Hunter. It was just the most ridiculous thing. Ridiculously overpowered, mostly in Standard. In Arena, eventually basically became the worst class because you couldn't get offered Demon Hunter cards in Arena, so it was no longer really playable because we just got class cards that didn't do anything. And in Wild, it was just really good. Odd DH was really good. It was one of the top decks in Wild, but it wasn't oppressive. It was just a strong deck, which is perfectly fine. But in Standard, it was like the meta-warping juggernaut until the final balance patch happened during the Ashes of Outland expansion, where like Warglaives got hit primarily. That really bumped it down, and it became, you know, beatable by more than just Warrior. So yeah, during the Ashes expansion, it was a nightmare. And then Skullmants came out, and all of a sudden, Demon Hunter was just middle of the road. You can see the first Vicious Syndicate Data Reaper report here. It was just middle of the road. Druid was like the best class. There was a lot of other competitive classes. Demon Hunter didn't feel that unfair because the stuff they got that expansion was good. They got like the Soul Fragment stuff for the most part. That was basically it. Aggro DH didn't get a lot outside of like Voracious Reader. But yeah, overall, Demon Hunter felt reasonable, and the people weren't complaining that much. Don't forget, the first like month or two of Skullman's, people weren't crying about Demon Hunter to be deleted, that it was this awful, terrible thing. It was like in the middle of the pack. It was kind of reasonable. But then as time went on in Skullman's, Druid got nerfed, Mage got nerfed, Priest got nerfed, but yeah, which eventually led to Demon Hunter by the end of the expansion being one of the top tier classes, but not like out of control. It was like Soul DH was arguably the best deck in the game, but there was plenty of counters outside of just Warrior. You had like Paladin, you had some big decks, of course Warrior itself. There were answers to it. So Soul DH and Demon Hunter in particular was very good, but not like oppressive. And in Wild, again, it was basically non-existent. Odd DH wasn't very good. In Arena, again, not that big a deal. Then we come to the latest expansion, Darkmoon Faire, where all of a sudden, Demon Hunter got a bunch of support. They got like Bladed Lady, they got all these aggro cards, like Acrobatics, Stilt Stepper. And now if you look at the latest couple Data Reaper reports, Demon Hunter back to Ash's numbers, basically. Top of the food chain, very few hard counters. It's just ridiculously oppressive again. And we're back to where we kind of were. And the main reason for this is in Darkmoon Faire, Demon Hunter got really good stuff like Il'gynoth, Bladed Lady, like I said, Stilt Stepper, Acrobatics, and the other classes didn't get a lot of stuff. Like if you look at the expansion, Darkmoon Faire, most classes, a lot of their cards don't see a lot of play outside of like Rogue, which sees a bit, and it's pretty rough. So yeah, we're kind of in that stage where, again, Demon Hunter's really oppressive, it feels really bad, and people are getting really frustrated again, and just, you know, saying, let's delete Demon Hunter, it's bad for the game. So I wanted to go over, you saw this meta review, you saw in the middle of that whole middle, the Skullman's middle, Demon Hunter was reasonable. It wasn't that hated. So let's go over the pros and cons of Demon Hunter, and what good it's brought to the game, what negative it's brought. So for the pros, in my opinion, Demon Hunter is really good for free-to-play players. If you look at like Aggro Demon Hunter, the best deck in the game right now, it's really cheap. You get a lot of these cards for free, because you do the Demon Hunter Initiate, which is free. You get all the stuff. So that's really good. And we've been complaining a lot about how this game is expensive to play, and Demon Hunter is one of those ways of getting people to get in, to be able to play on a relatively small budget, which is good. That's a good thing. The class inherently has a low level of RNG. The cards you put in your deck do what they say they're going to do. They just do it really well. And for a lot of people, they like that, especially more old school players that like to play less RNG stuff, that aren't a fan of all the new created by stuff. That can be a really good thing. It's a new class that can bring excitement, that can, especially early on, like a lot of people were really excited about Demon Hunter, and it probably brought a lot of people back. The flip side is it probably drove a lot of people away, but bringing a new class is new and exciting, and that's pretty cool. That's good. But, you know, you have to manage that properly. You have to bring people in with the excitement and keep them with that. And there's a bit of a problem with that. I find the class to be very flavorful. A lot of the cards, the artwork, the animations, the voice work are just really sweet. It feels cool to play it. I just like the look of it, especially like Demonic Illidan. He's on the thumbnail of this video. Just one of the most badass portraits ever. So I can really appreciate that. The outcast mechanic itself is pretty interesting, having to manipulate your hand to like be left and right to get it to go. Unfortunately, when you're playing vomit decks like aggro decks, it doesn't really matter when you're just dumping your hand. It's almost always outcasted when you play, so that's taking a bit of a back seat. Demon Hunters open the door for other new classes, like say they want to enter like a monk class. Maybe they can do that, but as some people would argue, Demon Hunter hasn't exactly been that great for the game. Do we really want to see another class if it's going to go this way? So there's a bit of a pro and con to that. And yeah, that's basically my list of pros for it. Let's take a look at my cons. So first con is it's just been oppressive. Since day one, outside of that Skullman's Pocket, it has felt oppressive, it's been overpowered, and that is not a ton of fun for the game. When a lot of classes barely see any play during this time, like Warlock saw a little bit as a counter early on, and then like Sackback got nerfed, and Warlock's basically been out of the game. Shaman, instead of like Evolve High Roll decks, is kind of out of the game. It feels pretty bad for people that love those classes, have been playing those classes for a long time. I found that the design choice on a lot of the cards was kind of lazy, or in terms of just reusing old ideas and power creeping them. Like, I used my example of them power creeping Arcane Intellect several times. This expansion alone, more than once. And other ideas like Lowly Squire with Battle Fiend, or Muster for Battle with the 2-mana weapon that gives you 1/1 demons. There's so many cards that were in Wild or have been used in other classes that literally just got reused in Demon Hunter, but they were just made to be better. Another example is like Warglaves and Foolsbane. It's just crazy to see the power level that it gave, and that didn't really at least excite me to see like, oh, that's an old card and it's just way better and broken, you know? That wasn't exactly the biggest pro in my book. One of the biggest cons is that the class has just been too powerful. The cards are consistently way too strong compared to every other class. This would not be an issue, by the way, if all other classes were as strong, got as strong as cards. If every class got really broken stuff or really, really strong stuff, and especially with Demon Hunter where the cards say they do what they're going to do, then it wouldn't really feel that bad. But Demon Hunter seems to be that only class that gets cards that say what they're going to do really well and get that, but the other classes have to rely on like random or high rolls or generating cards or whatever to win, whereas Demon Hunter just flat out gets a 5-mana 5/5 that deals 5 damage, or gets like just these broken cards that just do broken things without really any other text to it. It's just kind of insane. One of the biggest cons I would say about the class is the main 2 strategies that have existed for Demon Hunter are just not fun to face. They revolve around smacking the opponent in the face. Inherently, that's what the hero does because it gives itself attack. And it either does this through just vomiting early aggro and basically beating you before the game even starts, or they play like OTK or Soul DH, where they literally remove everything, heal for 1 billion, and then kill you in like one fail swoop. And again, you don't really feel like you get to play, you don't feel like your board matters, and it's like, why did I bother playing this game? This class is like unfair with their blade dances and healing, and it just leads to non-fun games. The games aren't interesting to play, whether you're winning or losing. It's just not interesting to lose to that same strategy where they just freaking dome you in the face. It's not exactly a lot of fun to face over and over, especially when it makes up like 20 or 30% of the ladder. It's like, oh, I guess I'm just going to get hit in the face and die, or unless I like generate some stuff or get enough armor. It's kind of a frustration, and it doesn't lead to the most exciting games. And lastly, one of the big cons is the other strategies they try to implement, like a token demon hunter, a big demon hunter. None of these are panned out whatsoever in the first 3 expansions. And I would argue those strategies would have been a little bit more interesting because they would have fought for board. They would have been more about being on board, not just hitting your opponent in the face. But again, the strategies that have been successful have just gone face. And that's been kind of a negative. So my conclusion after all this, after the whole meta breakdown, the pros and cons, is Demon Hunter a mistake? Should it be deleted? Is it bad for the game? I don't think so. I think Demon Hunter in itself, at its very core, is good for the game. It's free to play friendly. The deck does what it said, the class does what it says it's going to do, just way too well, and that needs to get scaled back. They need to balance this class better. The Outcast mechanic can be interesting when it's not in just a vomit deck. There are interesting unexplored archetypes that could be better down the road, like the token stuff, like the demon stuff. But like I said, the strategies that are successful with the class are really frustrating, really turn a lot of people off. They might make them outright leave the game because they don't feel they get to play the game against the class. And it's just at a power level, for the most part, for 2/3 of this year, that have just felt way too powerful, and it just needs to get dialed back. And I've noticed when Demon Hunter is dialed back, like it was in Skullomance, people aren't as up in arms. I mean, I wasn't. I was one of the biggest critics of how overpowered Demon Hunter was. And I got turned over to play Soul DH when it wasn't the best deck, wasn't even close. And now that it is, I don't really want to play it again because, well, it's the best. I'm hipster that way. But at the same time, I do think Demon Hunter, at its core, is healthy for the game. It just needs to be dialed back a ton. And then you have this class that's good for free-to-play players, does have a really good flavor to it, has some interesting mechanics, and overall has a lot of potential, and hopefully opens the class to new classes that are hopefully more balanced than this one going forward. Because, this implementation has been pretty bad, but maybe they'll learn from their mistakes, so maybe we can be open to a new class. But anyways, let me know your opinions in the comments below. Do you think Demon Hunter should just be outright deleted? Do you love the class? Do you hate the class? It's always an interesting debate to have. Enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day, and stay salty, my friends.